All right, let's get all washed up. Let's get ready to go. Let's get sudsy. Let's get soaped up. Let's get going. What do you think about that one,
Are you
huh?
you're hinting at something?
I am. I've been
You're
thinking.
so smart. I love it when you have that grin on your face when you did something clever.
I know. I'm being clever. Dad joke city. Look out, coming. Hey guys, if you haven't gone out there, make sure you tell your friends about us. The Small Business Safari just had another person hit me up yesterday and said, "Dude, I didn't know you even had a podcast." I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, it was immediately served up. I just joined Facebook and it immediately got served up to me. I'm like, "We were meant to be connected." Oh, by the way, we are.
Nice.
Yeah. So he goes, and I'm actually listening. He goes, "Hey, you're not bad." I said, "Wow, with that." I said, "Can you write that review for me? I really like that.
You
That's
don't suck
awesome."
as much as I thought you would.
Right? That's like
Yeah.
the tagline. We were working on this too. Is what's the vision of our nonprofit group that we're on the board of? Is that we suck less. Get to that one. No, let's
Is
get
that
going.
taken?
Huh? It was.
Oh,
I
okay.
think so.
Cheers,
Let's.
buddy.
Yeah. Cheers, Alan. It's been a minute since we gotten together. It's just been a whole week.
I know.
But we
Happy
are
birthday.
back. We are doing it. Happy birthday to you. We Alan and I have now known each other for probably 13,
15,
15
15,
years, almost
something.
15
Yeah.
years. We've been doing the podcast for two, and we just realized that our birthdays are literally 6 days apart.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that oh wow comes to you from Aaron Harper. Aaron, thank you so much for joining us. Aaron, what's the name of your concept and your franchise?
Rolling Suds.
Oh,
Rolling
that's why I
Suds.
said that.
Oh,
Uh,
okay. I've connected the dots now.
Thank you. Thank you. Aaron's you talked to us about Rolling Suds today, and what
D-
we're going to talk about is first of all how you got there.
You're doubling down on your dad joke.
I am totally don't you like that?
Yeah, dude.
But let's all lather up. Hey, everybody, put your bath hats on, get your rubber duckies out. We're going
Oh
Rolling
my God.
Suds. You like that?
Yeah, you just split eights. Okay.
All right, here we go.
Hmm.
Yeah, how'd that do for me in Vegas?
Yeah.
Not so much. So, Aaron, where are you from originally, and were you always going to start this franchise? Was this your idea?
No, 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 no. So I'm from Southern California originally. Did a stint working in Hollywood on the business side where I would work with actors and writers and directors and help them with their contracts and help them get jobs in Hollywood. Did that for about 5 years. Realized that um, I I didn't want anything that my bosses had. And so I decided to look into other kind of career opportunities. I had a buddy who I went to college with at UC Santa Barbara, and he said, "You should get into franchise development." And I was like, "What's that?" And and because like many of the people outside the franchise industry, thought franchises were just McDonald's and Chick-fil-A. And he said, "No, there's this whole opportunity where there's service-based businesses that you can get in for like 500,000 or less and build like a considerable size business." And so he gave me his boss's email address, and I emailed him every 3 weeks for 6 months until he hired me. And so I went to work at the biggest carpet cleaning franchise in the world. And so that was my entry point into franchising.
All right, so you got right in with them, and that can we say the name?
Yeah, ChemDry.
Okay, well, thank God. I don't want to break any confidentiality rules, but
Yeah,
so you got into franchise development. Like you said, a lot of people don't even know that's a career path or a way to actually find your way into entrepreneurship is to actually be in the franchise development space first and then get going. And that's what I found interesting about your path is that you got into franchise development and then decided, wait a minute, I think I can do this
The
myself.
franchise development is actually franchise sales.
That's
correct.
Yeah.
so let's talk about that for a minute.
Yeah, let's.
So you were humping franchises.
Yeah. So exactly. So there's people that like look online and I want to buy a business or I want to buy a franchise, and then it pops up. Here's 10 of the hot franchises that you should look at. And then they'd end up on the phone with someone like me.
Except for
And
you are a seasoned Hollywood negotiating barracuda. So you must have had a pretty good close rate.
I was not bad at my job. Uh,
Nice. Way to set it up, huh? You were a soul sucking barracuda shark.
So
Yeah, you might as well. I mean, and Aaron said, I was pretty good at my
yeah,
job.
yeah.
Dry smile inserted here. Nice. All right. So you did that for how many years?
so I was at ChemDry for 3 years. Then it was bought by a private equity backed restoration company that wanted to get into like franchising and building like a franchise division of service brands. So they bought ChemDry, but put us in charge of their franchise division. and said, go, we want to deploy capital, go find other brands. And so then they bought a brand in COVID called the Patch Boys, which is a drywall repair franchise. So first to market in the drywall repair space on the franchise side of things. So you get, a hole in your wall, who do you call? And so they bought that from the founder, and they bought it during COVID, and there were no systems or employees on the brand at all when they bought it. And they asked me to get involved, and I effectively had to do, we had to build systems. We had to figure out how to like support franchisees, and we hired a brand president, and him and I went to go get to know all the franchisees, and we built systems around everything they needed.
So they'd already franchised, but they didn't have any systems to support it. How often do you hear that story?
Correct.
Yeah.
Dude, how many franchisees did they have?
They had 100 locations.
Oh my God.
With no systems. So did they even have a software that they all used that was common?
I mean, I guess there's two schools of thought in franchising. One, you build the systems first, and then you go out and you get your franchisees, but that's cash intensive. Or you see if you can sell franchises, and if it sticks, then you backfill the systems.
Right, which is problematic because someone's buying into a 10-year contract thinking they're going to get the support that they do. And if you're backfilling systems, you effectively have franchisees be the guinea pigs. And so part of the reason that I'm doing what I'm doing, and we can catch up to that in a little bit, but like, is to kind of like do the opposite of what a lot of franchisors do, is raise enough capital, build the systems at the beginning, create serious infrastructure so that we could handle the scale and the growth.
You mean do it the right way?
Do it the right way.
Yeah. Do it with your franchisee's best interest at heart.
Yeah, clearly. Yeah. All right. So you went over to the Patch Boys. You had to figure out the systems while the 747 is flying. You got to figure out what you're going to implement. Yeah.
So we had to do basically a turnaround. We didn't sign up any new franchisees until we had done that. And then we put systems in place. And the first franchisee that we launched was at the end of 2020. And he had a full-time skilled labor, hired prior to going to training, knew nothing about drywall repair. We turned leads on for him at training. He had 8 estimates lined up the day he got back from training, 6 estimates lined up the following day, and he was cash flow positive his first month. So fully turned it around.
Nice.
So at that point, though, that's great for him because he knows nothing different other than what you taught him. You got 100 franchisees where the horse is already out of the barn. They're probably all running wildly in different directions. How did they react to having this system handed to them?
They were thrilled.
Oh,
they
awesome.
were like, this is what it's supposed to be like. I paid for like, this is, I mean, we had to turn, I mean, we brought them to training. Some of them were like, I love the concept, but like, I'm working a full-time job and was told I could run this business in a different state by hiring a manager. I'm like, that's not how business works. So anyways, we turned it around from October of 2020 to October of 2022. I personally added 223 locations to that brand in 2 years, and they all opened with jobs on the calendar and a full-time labor hired prior to going to training.
Solid, man.
And he says he did a good job closing.
He does a great job closing. We'll say it for him. He's doing great. All right, so you built that up. You feel pretty good about yourself. You're patting yourself on the back, but that wasn't enough. You felt like you built yourself up. You obviously, if you built your own toolbox up with all your skills, where you said, "Man, I can go do this myself."
So they came to me. Yeah, so they came to me with like a really great plan. They were like, Aaron, we don't want you to leave. We're going to buy a business at the end of the year. It's not a franchise yet. We want you to franchise it. You won't have to walk back any angry franchisees. You can start from scratch. We'll give you an unlimited budget. We'll double your salary, and we'll give you a really fancy title. And I was like, wait a minute. I can do this on my own. I can build a team. I could raise capital. I could find a business that I believe in. I could franchise that business. I could make it become the biggest brand in the world in whichever industry I decide. And so turned the roll down and looked at about 24 different businesses across the country, all ranging from, close to $1 million in top line to 14 million that were non-franchised that I could franchise. So HVAC, plumbing, solar, tree care, insulation, epoxy coatings, line striping. And I met the founders of Rolling Suds in September of 2022. It was the best business I looked at. It was the only one that checked all the boxes for me. I knew I could replicate it, hundreds, thousands of times. Partnered with the founders who are incredible, wonderful 30-plus-year-old family business. acquired the franchise rights from them in January, raised capital, started franchising at the end of February of last year. I turn away more people than I bring in. I've turned away 55 people who wanted to become franchisees and weren't right for our system, which is about 10 million in revenue. And I signed up now 45 franchisees who've purchased 145 territories in 25 states. And we've done that in basically a year because our first franchisee signed up in March of last year. So we're currently one of the fastest growing franchises in the country.
All right. So for our listeners, you picked this business model. What made this thing so attractive to you? And you might want to start with what it is first.
Yeah. So Rolling Buds is a residential and commercial power washing company based in the Northeast, Philadelphia, New Jersey, founded by the Wendling family. Bryan Wendling Sr. and his son now runs it, Bryan Wendling Jr. They've grown it to a multi-million-dollar local business with proprietary technology and equipment and a proprietary process that cleans buildings faster and more effectively than anyone else. And then I turned it into a franchise with obviously their help, and have built a team now of over 20 people that work for me. And yeah, we're growing like crazy. What I liked about the concept was a lot. First and foremost, it's the Wendling family. They're incredible people that I believe in and knew I could do business with. But unskilled labor, high margin business, massive total addressable market. Every structure that you drive by needs to be cleaned. It's a need in every single state, so it's replicable across multiple states. And really, there's a lack of sophistication in the pressure washing industry. There's no standardized like national player, or there wasn't until we came along.
Where'd you get your confidence? You said no to a ridiculous offer that I thought you were joking at first. And it kept going and going. I'm going to double your salary. I'm going to give you unlimited budget, all that stuff. You say no to that. You say no to more than half the people that want a franchise. I actually saw, I can't remember if it was a Facebook post or something where basically you were pulling a Babe Ruth. Here's what we're going to do. By this time, I'm going to have this many stores. By this time, I'm going to raise this much money, blah, blah, blah. I mean, you got some huevos.
Thank you. I had been telling people to start businesses for years and that they could start businesses and to believe in themselves. That was my job, like making sure that the people who came in had the right expectations about how to be successful. And I was telling them, you should do this thing. And a lot of those people are 55 or 60 years old, which is totally fine. I'm not saying anything bad about that. But I was like, if
Thank
I
God.
stay in and don't start a business till I'm 55 or 60 years old, and I don't take my advice for that long and then finally decide that I want to start my own business, I was just like, I'm going to regret it. And there's never a good time to start a business. So that means like there's every time is a good time to start a business. I should have mentioned, like, I'm married. I live in Nashville. I have a son who turns 3 on Monday, and I have a daughter who's 16 months. So I turned down all that when my daughter was like brand new. Turned down the role when she wasn't even born yet. My wife's 7 months pregnant. Um, so yeah, so I'm just basically
Was she
I'm a crazy
delirious?
person.
Was she
What's that?
delirious? Was she delirious or is she just a saint?
She is a literal saint. I asked for permission first, and
Good.
He's smart.
she
He's a
I
smart man
enjoy
with balls.
I enjoy sleeping in my own bed, so I asked for permission.
Oops.
Um, yeah. So anyways, yeah. I mean, I got it because I knew that I could do it. I had done it. People were paying me well to do it. Like the only risk is, okay, now I'm going to pay for it, and I'm going to take the risk, but I'm going to reap all of the upside benefits.
So as you did this to raise the capital, did you take on investors? Did you self-fund? How did you do that?
Both.
Both.
So I was advised to raise smart money. So people that could provide intellectual capital in addition to actual capital. So I have longtime mentors in the franchise space who are either multi-brand franchisees or multi-brand franchisors or both, who could help me at certain inflection points I also wanted to put a cap table together that I'd never have to raise from anyone else other than the cap table that I currently have ever again. And and then I'm the biggest investor in the franchise, myself. So, kind of did both, raised capital, minority investors, also invested my own money. And then the founders of Rolling Suds also invested in the franchise entity to grow this thing the right way.
Yeah, I think that's probably one of the biggest gold nuggets is you can go out there and do a raise if you feel like you got to do that, and that's could be anything from friends and family to, which I highly recommend to, or not recommend,
I was
or
going to say,
go to banks. But I think Aaron, you brought up something that I think is very, very thoughtful, and that is the smart money. The person who can help you not just today as you start up, but the person who's going to help you because you scaled very quickly for a lot of companies, especially me being in it for 16 years to be as big as you are, as quick as you are, even in the franchise space. I mean, that's supersonic growth, and you got to be able to hold on. And you like you said, inflection points. So where were your first inflection points, and maybe what were some of the worst ones?
Um, I think for me, one of the hardest things, like, because I went for effectively an individual contributor role to now having a staff of over 20 people in a year and a half's time. So I think the thing that was hardest for me to learn is when to let someone go. We've had to let a few people go because either the company outgrew them or they were the wrong people in the wrong seats or whatever variety of different reasons. And for me, like, I'm a caring person. Like, one of our core values is compassion, and, like, I'm holding on to these types of situations, and because I thought it was the right thing to do. But I watched a video from the CEO of LinkedIn, and he basically, like, eloquently said that the most compassionate thing you could do with someone who's in the wrong seat is take them out of that seat so they could go find one that they fit better in. And so that was a hard thing for me to learn. But every single time I've had to do that, I recognize that there's all these pieces that are, like, either not put together properly on the back end that I have to fix, or there was potential damage being done to the business, and we're able to kind of fix it. And then what ends up happening is then we go from, like, we take that person out, we put the right people in, and then the business goes like that. And so that's happened a couple times. Um, uh, and we I'm fortunate in the sense that, like, I know what systems a franchisor breaks 2 years in, or 3 years in, or 4 years in, because I've been directly or indirectly involved now with 14 brands and helped build the second largest platform organization of franchises, because the company I worked at, we grew them to 12 brands, 4,700 locations, 55 countries, and 12 different industries. So I can foresee what those issues are a lot of times before they happen. So, suppliers is a big piece of a franchise, is having the right suppliers and the right vendors in place. I go under the assumption that we'll break every supplier we partner with. And so, because if you add 150 units in 12 months, like, there's only so many vendors and suppliers who can keep up with that growth. So there's been situations where we've had to bring stuff in-house, knowing, like, hey, we're reaching this company's capacity. We need to invest hundreds of thousands of dollars and bring building the trucks in-house. And part of that goes into capital, part of it goes into foresight, part of it goes into being willing to invest in the business before the business needs it, so that you can not, have to break things later down the line. But yeah, I mean, it's been wild. It has been absolutely the most thrilling experience I've ever had professionally, for sure.
Right, that's obvious. It's hair raising. It's fun because it's yours, right? And it's
Yeah.
up to you to kind of bet on yourself. And I love that you've done that. As you've grown your 20 people, you said your hardest part was letting people go. Isn't that interesting?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a true testament to character. It's hard to do. It is hard to do. So now you got the 20 and you're growing and you're taking time to talk to us on this podcast. So obviously you're starting to get a little more time back. Is that what we're hearing, or is that what's happening for you?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, when I first started the business, it was me, the founders, and one employee. And I knew I had the trajectory of who we were going to hire, but I didn't know when exactly, based on the amount of units that we sold, when those people would need to be hired. And we really, I mean, We just started selling unit. I mean, 5 weeks after we launched, we signed up our first franchisee who bought 2 territories, and then called me 2 days later and bought his third. Bought their third. It was a married couple, and that was March of last year. We had three locations, 1 franchisee, and now we have 45 franchisees, 145 locations.
So I guess you were the franchise developer, not salesperson.
I have been the franchise developer this whole time.
Oh, have you really?
So
oh, wow.
I have done it myself. So I have hired for every single other role. I have 5 people that report directly to me on the ops and marketing and franchisee support side of things. Have an incredible executive team, and then I have focused my entire time on bringing in the right franchisees, setting the right expectations, making sure they have the right amount of capital, and knowing exactly who they are, and making sure, you know, I could curate a community of franchisees that I'm proud of.
You're not taking the first call, are you?
I'm doing everything.
Really? Because there's a lot of tire kicking, I'm sure, that goes on in franchising.
So I'll pause you, because all my candidates that come to me are pre-qualified by franchise consultants.
Okay.
So they have the necessary capital and are at least knowledgeable about the concept. So each call is a scheduled call of someone who has expressed interest, the way that we do franchise development. So I work with some of the best franchise consultants. Franchise consultants, for those listeners who don't know what that is, that's basically like a real estate agent for franchises. Someone who can show you opportunities that make sense for you, your buyer profile, who you are.
And I'm sure that helps you a lot, but any established franchise system has a full-time, if not multiple full-time franchise development people. And
Correct.
And as fast as you're growing, you're doing that job. And oh, by the way, I'm CEO of the whole thing, and I've got all these people reporting to me. And oh, by the way, I got a couple little kids at home. And when do you
By the way, I
sleep?
have a wife.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, yeah.
by the way, I'm trying to keep my physical health. Yeah.
Right.
Oh, by the way. Yeah. It's been wild. I mean, I just brought on 2 people. I thought it was important that I hand selected the first 100 locations myself, because I do believe that the only thing that could get in the way of us becoming the biggest power washing company in the world is bringing in the wrong people. But we've brought in like multiple C-level executives at this point, multiple guys from a private equity background, high-level salespeople, some incredible women who just have like this, you know, incredible amount of grit. We just signed up the largest Fast Signs franchisee who does $42 million a year. I just signed up someone 2 days ago who sold a business for $135 million. So like I've been able to attract some really impressive operators because they think like me. You know what I mean? They're talking to me. We think the same. And I believe that, you know, we've curated the best group that any emerging franchisor could ask for.
That's unbelievable.
Thank you.
What are some kick out, you know, if I came to you and we talked and I said, man, I'm really interested.
Because you can't run it from Vegas or your boat.
Oh. So is that a kick out, by the way? No, I'm kidding.
Yes, I'll answer for Aaron.
I'm going to be in the mountains this weekend. No. Shit.
So right. I'll say this respectfully. A lot of people who buy a franchise, they end up buying a job. And then they work that job themselves for 2 to 4 years, and then they're burnt out. And the franchisor doesn't provide them the process to get out of that and hire people and scale. And then they try to sell the business and it doesn't have any value because they're the business. And it takes a lot to be able to delegate and elevate and reinvest in the business and not think about it like, oh, my business is bringing in 30 grand a month. I'm going to take out 4 grand a month and pay myself. Like to think like that takes a certain level of higher level of operator to think through. And so we look for people who want to build massive businesses and have the grit, willingness, capacity, capital, wherewithal to achieve that. And a lot of the people that I've turned away, I did not feel like no matter what systems we build internally would be able to get to that point. They might get to 2 to 3 trucks, be good, bring in 200 to 300 in cash flow or whatever it ends up being, and kind of let the foot off the gas. And the franchisees that we've brought in, I joke, but you've probably heard like that, like move fast and break things. that's the culture amongst our franchisees. Like they're like, give me as many marketing companies, I'll throw capital at it. Like we'll hire salespeople, we'll see if it works. Like they're all trying to get to like 4, 5, 6, 10, $20 million businesses. Um, and so we've been fortunate to attract those types of individuals, which continues to kind of reset the bar and raise the bar on who will allow in, who we won't allow in. So we've turned away about one person per week that wanted to write me close to a $200,000 check and had the capital to do it.
I mean, that's impressive. It's the mindset. You know, he actually used the term grit capacity. I think he said capability, but that determining you just don't buy a job, and that's not what
Right.
franchising is about. If you think I'm sitting in corporate America and I'm sick of my stay-at-home job, I have to work from the house, but boy, I can do so much more if I just bought this franchise. I bought myself a new job. I'm all set. Wrong. Yeah, it's just not the way it's going to go. I don't care if your franchise is McDonald's, which we've had a McDonald's franchisee on, uh, talking on the podcast before. It's difficult. Even if you have the McDonald's name behind you, you still got to operate and make it grow. So you're finding these people who want to grow and take that opportunity with you. Who's your biggest success story? Who's the gal who's up to 4 or 5 or 10 trucks by now?
Well, so nobody is
Oh,
because we launched less than a year ago. So we had our first franchisee launch in July of last year. So we don't even have anyone who's been operating a year yet. With that said, multiple franchisees have added their second truck either 2 or 5 months into operation. Um, so the model's working. I mean, the pressure washing industry as a whole is lacking a professional power washing company at scale. And so we've been able to capture market share from, the guy who power washes himself or does it on nights and weekends, or he's a firefighter full time, or he's a college student that does it on the weekends. It's been quite easy to capture market share from those individuals.
There's got to be
Um,
just a tremendous amount of excitement in your organization. There's nothing like it doesn't matter how into the concept you are, you're still nervous when you stroke that check. And then when you turn around and you see other high level people doing the same thing, I mean, your first conference is going to be raucous. It's going
it's
to be
going to be
unbelievable.
wild. It's going to be wild.
Yeah.
all
It's
right.
gonna be,
So
yeah.
where is it?
Yeah,
Vegas?
Chris wants in. He wants to be a speaker.
Margaritaville. Uh,
Nice.
in Orlando. We're planning it now. It will be in Margaritaville in February of next year. We will have over 300 units sold by then, and we'll be 2.5 ish, 2.5 ish years in, 3 years
Wow.
in, close to. So it's going to be wild. Yeah, I mean, we're already planning it now. We just had like a little mini one that we invited a few franchisees to. It was for franchise consultants to come out in Nashville. There were 75 people that came out. I mean, there's a lot of momentum around what we're doing. It's really exciting.
You're going to have to tell Margaritaville, you might want to keep a few rooms free just in case we
Nice.
overshoot our estimate.
I love it,
I got
man.
I got a quick question, but it's not an exciting one, but the original locations, the folks that you partnered with to franchise, did they turn into franchises or are those corporate owned stores where you can do proof of concept and things like that?
Corporate owned stores where we can do proof of concept. So we have at this point now two corporate owned locations. One is the original founding location in Pennsylvania and New Jersey. The son of Brian Wendling Sr. Has been running his dad's business essentially since 2016 and has taken it from like an $800,000 to $900,000 business to in our last FTD was 2.2 million, just purely pressure washing. Um, he they by the way are absolutely thrilled. Like the Wendling family, they're like, this is the greatest thing that we could have ever asked for, and I take a lot of pride in that.
You should,
Uh,
and it's a big risk on their part to,
Yeah,
that
100%.
Massive.
Yeah. I think both.
It's
Yeah,
their
all the way
family
around.
name.
it's kind of a Ray Kroc kind of a thing that just happened, isn't it?
Yeah, except yeah, I mean,
Well, except for,
absolutely.
you didn't cheat on your wife, but other than that,
Yeah, minus the like,
I wasn't even going there. Nice.
minus the questionable, questionable things. But I mean, effectively, it's the same thing. It was a, locally owned,
well-run
originally
place. Yeah.
well-run, yeah, and then he turned it into a franchise and took it worldwide. I mean, so we're effectively doing the same thing. but yeah, I mean, they're thrilled. He called me. His son and I have become very, very close. I was at his wedding last year, and he said, "Aaron, I'm having so much fun working on the franchise side of things and working with franchisees that I'd love it if you'd have me come on. If there's a spot for me, come on full time on your leadership team." And I was like, "Absolutely, 100%. When can you start?" So he's our VP of operations and on my leadership team overseeing the coaches and has like 5 or 6 people underneath him now. But yeah, I mean, honestly, it couldn't be going better.
So I got another question. With as fast as you're growing and you're not backfilling the infrastructure, you actually built the infrastructure, but you're having to add a lot of people. You said 20 people. You've actually hired more than that because you've had to let some go.
Mhm.
And I'm just thinking about our listeners who are thinking about scaling their business. When you're that busy, talk about how you're projecting human resource needs and what tools you're using to actually find quality people.
So a combination of things. I put out a ton of content online, so a lot of them come to me.
Hmm.
Um, Super active on Twitter and LinkedIn predominantly. I'm active in the SMB kind of Twitter space community. There's like this like smaller corner of Twitter, which is like franchise Twitter that I'm part of. So I put a lot of stuff out there. So that's a combination of people reaching out to me. We will use the normal, mediums that people use, Indeed and ZipRecruiter, and post jobs. And then a lot of what we've had is referral based. So you need to work with this person. I've worked with them, those kind of things. And then most recently, we started working with a headhunter that specifically works in franchising and has high level NDAs with higher like executive type people in the franchise space. So really, what every business owner who's thinking about scaling up to multiple $1 million businesses, like, you're gonna need a C-suite. It's just a matter of when you're getting there and when you're ready to allocate the capital. Fortunately, I was able to raise the capital so that I could bring in the team well before I need the team. So we just hired our first C-suite individual who starts on Tuesday. He's a chief development officer, so that I can, uh, in the next month or two, step out of the franchise development process. And he's going to build a team of different franchise developers because, like you said, I've been essentially standing up an entire franchise development arm by myself for 13 or 12 months. And
Was that your
we,
most difficult hire? Was hiring for you
yes,
on that one? You're like, nah, you're not good enough. No, you're not good. Listen, I know you're not going to do as good as me, but that
yeah,
had to be hard.
it is the thing that I have had the hardest time letting go of. A, because of my experience in doing it, and also B, a lot of franchise salespeople aren't like honest and truthful people. Like, they're just selling a dream that doesn't exist, and they're overselling and they're overpromising and they're bringing whomever in that'll sign the contract. And like, we're doing the opposite. We're turning away more than we're bringing in, and our standards of who comes into our system are like outrageously high. So I I actually partnered with an individual, and he came in, and I've known him for years. He helped build budget blinds from 80 locations to over 1,600, and he's a wonderful person that I believe in. I talk a lot about responsible franchising just because I've seen a lot of irresponsible franchising out there. So it's kind of a
Amen.
it's kind of a word that has picked up some groundwork in the industry. I actually spoke about it at the International Franchise Association's conference for emerging franchisors. I was the keynote at that event at the end of last year, um, and the CEO of the IFA was like, the response to your speech was so positive. Can you send me the transcript? Would love to quote you. Um, Quoted me in an article, basically said this is what responsible franchising is. And then most recently, the editor in chief from Entrepreneur Magazine reached out and asked if he could pair me up with a writer to write a 3,000 word piece on it. So it's really, and so that'll be coming out in the May issue of the magazine. So it's really picked up a lot of steam. And so, anyways, like, you have to put the right people in the right place in order to support the franchisees, and you have to know where you're going to be 2 years from now and be able to plan for that now. because a lot of franchisors, they just break systems every 6 months. They're like, okay, well, this works now. And then 6 months later, it breaks. And this works now. 6 months later, it breaks. And so, I'm going to build a pretty impressive C-suite, and we'll have over 300. I mean, we're doing, about 3 territories per franchisee that signs up right now, because we're only looking for multi-unit owners. So we'll have, probably in the next few years, 300 plus franchisees, which will be a pretty big system.
Right. Have you made any mistakes? Have there been any bad franchise picks early that you've had to flip out already?
Yes. Yeah.
So
Um,
to talk about that, just lessons learned, things you picked up from that, like, man, because
sure.
again, you're really good. You've been growing. You pick great people, and then
Yeah.
bang, this one was a dud.
Yeah. I mean, no matter how selective you are, you don't really know until someone gets into it, because starting a business is not for everyone. And also starting a franchise and running a franchise system is not for everyone. And so we had an individual that he questioned, he signed, and he was so excited. And he's like, tell me what to do. And then, like, every single thing he questioned. And it's like,
Mhm.
this, I don't think we should do this. I think we should actually run the equipment this way. And it's like, all of this has been perfected after, decades. Like, there's no reason to change it. You buy into a franchise system for the system. So if you go against the system, it's like buying a furniture from IKEA, throwing out the directions, and then trying to build it yourself. It's like, why even buy the furniture? It doesn't make sense.
There's a lot of extra
Um,
parts.
it's just extra part. They're just going to go in the trash.
Yeah.
So we had to part ways with that individual. He effectively didn't open because he just wouldn't kind of do the things that were necessary. There was another individual who left a career of a really long time, decades at the same company, and was really excited, had more than enough capital, and was right culturally and everything, and left that job and didn't have a structured schedule every single day, and it was really hard on him.
It's really
And
tough, and I think it's one of the key things in franchising, because people who have the money and the experience to be able to buy a franchise aren't used to being told what to do. And so you
right,
actually have to find people who want to play in the box, in the system, and who are coachable, yet have the money and the experience to do this.
yeah, it's a very specific type of person. Not everyone is right for a franchise system. Not everyone's right for business. And so finding that and then striking that balance of, like, making sure you have the right people who are willing to follow the system, and also, like, have the capital and will take big swings and have the risk tolerance. I mean, it's effective. I mean, it's effectively rocket science to build a franchise system the right way. I mean, it's open heart surgery. Like, it's not an easy thing to do, which is why so many people don't succeed at it. But what's cool is we have the experience in power washing of decades. We have my experience in franchising, and we know each other's roles, and we're partners. And so we're able to accelerate the growth in a way that I think is really special and unique and doesn't happen very often.
Yeah, man, this has been incredible. So, man, I'd love to keep you on. I'm soaking this all in, getting into it. I am getting it. So, all right, come on, just trying again. All right. So, Aaron, how can everybody find you? I know you said you put yourself out there on social. Let's hit up all those deets, and then we'll hit you with our final 4 questions.
Sure. Twitter and LinkedIn I'm most active on. So you could just search Aaron Harper Rolling Suds LinkedIn and you can find me. On Twitter, it's Aaron Harper CEO is my handle. AARONHARPER CEO. And then on Instagram, I put out at least one video per day on franchising and franchising stuff,
Because he's
business
got all that
ownership.
time on his hands. Oh
Yeah.
my
And
God.
and oh by the way,
Yeah.
And oh by the way, I'm building another brand.
Mm.
So yeah, so it's there's some stuff happening, and it's a lot of fun. And in Instagram, it's Aaron T Harper, where you can find me. And then also, if you're interested in Rolling Suds and becoming a franchisee, you just want to go to rollingsudsfranchise.com and hit learn more, or whatever fill out the form, and you'll get to either me or someone on my team, and we can kind of walk you through and see if it's a good fit.
I'll tell you what, man, you got me sold on it. I'm like sitting there going, yeah, I mean, this is one you want to investigate. If you're thinking franchising is for you, again, we've had Steve Miller on, who's been a franchising coach. Alan has been in the franchising industry himself on both sides as a franchisee and a franchisor. And when you look at this and evaluate it, it sounds really interesting.
Oh, it's amazing. And
Yeah,
it's like the special forces of franchising.
that's
You
right.
better be a badass. Otherwise, you're not going to get awarded a franchise.
Yeah, and we're not going to let you in our club. How
That's
about
right.
that? Take that. You want to be like me, don't you? No, you can't. Okay. I love it. Special forces. I did it all petty. Yeah, that's how I do it. Aaron, this has been awesome, man. If you didn't learn something, that's on you because this has been dynamite. This is good stuff, but we can't let you go without asking a few questions. What is a favorite book you prefer to all of our listeners?
So I like The Hard Thing About Hard Things by Ben Horowitz. This was something I read before I launched. It's really helpful to me. And then, for anyone who's just a business owner and wants to figure out how to generate more revenue, $100 Million Leads by Alex Hormozy.
Hormozy, yeah.
He's got him at his fingertips. Did you see that?
Right.
I've listened to that book like 4 times. I have my entire executive team is required to listen to it.
No, nice. That's a good one.
So
love it.
It's how do I get leads and how do I find the people to buy my stuff? And that's what everyone wants in business is someone to come buy their stuff.
I hear you. So. Somebody want to buy a Trusted Toolbox franchise? Oh, wait, I don't not even franchise. All right. What's the favorite feature of your house?
Did you say that out loud?
I did.
You're looking at it. This is where I hang out all day long. This is my study.
All right. In your study, for those who watching us on YouTube, you can always hit us up, Small Business Safari channel. If you haven't, you got to go out there, check it out. You got to check out the background that Aaron Harper has because I want to know what the hell those 2 paintings are.
Got some fine art. He's got the tufted leather, badass sofa, big library.
So what are these? What are these pictures?
Yeah, so I get this question all the time, and candidates will get on the phone with me and they're like, "I've watched 17 podcasts you've been on. Before we talk about Rolling Suds, tell me about that octopus painting." My grandfather is a fine art collector. He was a fine art collector. He passed a couple of years ago. So back in the 70s, he just bought a bunch of like art from the modern masters era. And we've been fortunate, my wife and I, to inherit a lot of that. And so I felt, okay, well, I have all this art that, I shouldn't have. Why don't I go and invest in my own art that I like from different street artists or different artists that I'm interested in? And so there's a woman, her name is Annie Priest, and she is a street artist in Los Angeles. And she does murals and really cool stuff. And I've known her since like 2011. And so I had commissioned some pieces of hers. And so this is a commissioned piece that she did. And then I've got a couple other ones, like 2 or 3 other ones in our house. And then that one right there is a Marc Chagall poster that was hung in the Metropolitan Art Museum. So yeah, we've got it's a cool house over here.
I want to be Aaron when I grow up.
Right? Hey man, I want an octopus picture. It's a painting, son. It was commissioned. And no, it's only one of a kind. What? No, come on, let me have it. All right. All right, man. You've been in service, you're helping people get into service, you're doing all that stuff. What is a customer service pet peeve of yours? Because we are customer service
freaks.
Hello. When you're out there, you're the customer. What's a customer service pet peeve of yours?
Being put on hold.
Hold, please.
I'm assuming that you have
just hire more people.
Yeah, man. AI is coming.
He's probably got a system and process for that.
I don't know. I think if you call, you're not going to be put on hold.
No.
I love that. All right. One of the other things I love because Alan likes to have me do work around his house. No, Alan's pretty DIY friendly himself and does a lot of stuff. We do a lot of work here, and I love DIY nightmare stories. Do you have a great DIY nightmare story?
Oh, this is hilarious. Okay, so before I got involved with Rolling Suds, I was the perfect Rolling Suds customer, and I didn't even know it. So my wife is like she's so clean and so organized. Like she keeps this house in tip top shape. And she was like, Aaron, we need to power wash our house. And I was like, she goes, no, Aaron, we need to power wash our house. You need to either get someone out here, or you need to do it on your own. Like there's algae growing on the side of the house. And I was like, all right. So I start calling people around. They don't call me back, or they do call me back 4 hours later. And then they give me a quote over the phone. I'm like, I'm not paying $450. That's crazy. I can go buy a machine for 300. And I'm like the least handy person you'll ever meet. Like the least handy person.
Oh my
And so I go to Home Depot. I buy the $300 machine. I buy the like oil that you have to put into the gas tank. And I'm like, and I don't know exactly how much to put in, that like whatever. And I do it.
What could
And
go
I
wrong?
full on burn a Sunday that I'll never get back. Like I'll never get this Sunday back. I'm sitting there and power washing. I'm there for 4, 5, 6 hours. And it looks good when I'm done. But I'm like, this far away from the siding, going like that, and it takes me forever. And 6 months later, it comes back. And my wife's like, it's time to do it again. And I was like, oh. So I'm like, I didn't do it. I didn't do it again. I paid someone to do it because I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to lose the Sunday that I had before. And so what I learned is that during that experience is there's a need for this, and there's need for a professionalized service provider for this. And B, the value of time. I'd rather pay someone $400, $500, $600 so I could spend an entire Sunday with my family rather than up on a ladder trying to pretend that I know how to power wash.
I love it. That is so funny. My best pressure washing nightmare story was I went out to look and we're handyman and they said, can you fix my siding? And I'm like, yeah, sure. What happened? Well, I hired this guy from the neighborhood and he came out and pressure washed my house. I said, let's go take a look. And I go around the side of the house and it looks like he was trying to write his name in her siding.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it's like literally streaks up and down. And the worst part was it was all vinyl siding. He hit every single piece of that vinyl siding. There wasn't one left with just one mark. I mean, just one.
Oh, that's hilarious.
She goes, what do you think? Do you think you can save it? I said, I think I could replace it. She goes, oh, I don't have that kind of money. I'm like, how much you pay this guy? Oh, I just paid him a couple $100s. I'm like, ooh, that's an expensive little lesson. She didn't like that answer either. So yeah, man, pressure washing by professionals, believe it or
I think
not.
Aaron needs to put that pressure washer in the Rolling Suds Museum.
Yes. The $300 smoking pressure washer.
That's right.
Aaron, this has been awesome, everybody. We learned a ton. We learned a lot. We got
What? Go ahead. One more. Dad.
we were awash in understanding of what's going on. We love pressure washing. We got to go. We're out here. Go make something happen. Get up that mountaintop. We'll see you next time. We're out of here.
Cheers, everybody.
Yeah.